I'm going to be sitting down all morning, which is good for you because then I won't be moving across the stage. But I will be spinning as soon as I get my chair exactly where I want it. I'm walking with a cane this morning, and many of you saw, because one, I think canes are just cool. Next week, I'm going to try out an eye patch, and I might try it on both eyes. I might shave my head too, and that way, no. Those of you who may know this or not, there are times when you're young and you believe you're invincible and you treat your body as though it is invincible and that you will never feel the pain from the invincibility that you have. And then as you get older, that invincibility wears off. This is an old injury that I re-aggravated. I broke my toe in 2005, and then the same day I went and did a PT test, which sounds really hua at the time for those of you that are in the military, but not really hua afterward. And then like a year later, I laid my motorcycle over on this foot and turned it like black from the top of the boot to the bottom. And as I was getting on the plane 2 weeks later to go to White Sands for our mission, they said, "Hey, Chaplain, you can't get on the plane with crutches." So I handed them my crutches, and for 4.5 weeks, I walked around on White Sands with a black foot. I mean, it was really cool when I did it, because everybody thought I was like super hua. Well, now, unfortunately, though, my foot likes to remind me of just exactly how smart that decision was. So they got me on some mild painkillers, which will make this sermon kind of interesting. So I feel like I'm like Captain Jack Sparrow at times up here. For you Texas fans, I'm sorry. Minnesota just kind of happened to... Y'all, everybody's safe in the NFL. Minnesota's on a bye week this week. So, you got to watch the Green Bay Packers play Dallas. Good luck. Exodus chapter 10. Exodus chapter 10. I had no idea I was herbophaged. Exodus chapter 10. We'll move that trash can out from underneath there. Starting in verse 1. We're going to read to verse 20. Exodus chapter 10. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, and that I may show these signs of mine among them. And you will tell in the hearing of your sons and your grandsons how I have dealt harshly with the Egyptians and the signs which I have done amongst them, that you may know that I am the Lord." And so Moses and Aaron went into Pharaoh, and they said to him, "Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. For if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your country." I'm getting some weird feedback in the monitor up here. Can any of you hear that other than me? Okay, it's just me. If you refuse to humble yourself before me and let my people go, for they serve me. For if you refuse, let my people go. Behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your country, and they shall cover the face of the land, so that no one can see the land. And they shall eat what is left to you after the hail, and they shall eat every tree, and they shall eat what is left to you after the... I'll just read that again. Telling you it's messing with me just a little bit. "And they shall eat every tree of yours that grows in the field, and they shall fill your houses and the houses of your servants and all of the Egyptians, as neither your fathers nor their grandfathers had seen from that day, and they came unto this earth to this day." Then he turned and went out from Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's servants said to him, "How long will this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Do you not understand that Egypt is ruined?" And so Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, and he said to them, "Go serve the Lord your God. But which ones are you to go?" And Moses said, we will go with our young and our old. We will go out with our sons and our daughters, with our flocks and our herds. For we must hold a feast to the Lord. But he said that he there would be Pharaoh. The Lord be with you if I ever let your little ones, you or your little ones go. Look, you have some evil purpose in mind. No, go, the men among you, and serve the Lord, for that is what you are asking. And they were driven from Pharaoh's presence. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the land and the Egyptians for the land of Egypt for the locusts, so that they may come upon the land of Egypt and eat every plant in the land, all that the hail had left. So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land, and all day and all night, and when it was morning, the east wind had brought locusts, and the locusts came up over the land of Egypt and settled in the whole country of Egypt, and a dense swarm of locusts that had never been seen before, nor ever will be again, for they covered the whole face of the land, so that the land was darkened, and they ate all the plants in the land, and all the fruit and the trees and the hail, and not a green thing remained, neither tree nor plant of the field in all of Egypt. And Pharaoh hastily called Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive my sin, please, only this once. Plead with the Lord your God, only to remove this death from me. So he went out from Pharaoh, he pleaded with the Lord, and the Lord turned the wind into a very strong west wind and lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea, and not a single locust was left in the country of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go. All right, long reading. Plague number 8. Last week we looked at one of the reasons why God is doing what he's doing to Pharaoh. And a lot of people go, why was God playing this? Why is he playing with this guy? And why is he doing what he's doing? And we saw last week that one of the reasons why he is doing what he is doing to Egypt is, one, so Pharaoh know that there is a God in the earth. Remember, this goes all the way back to when Moses first goes into Pharaoh and says, let Israel go. He didn't ask. He told him, you are going to let Israel go. And Pharaoh's response was, who is this God? Who is this God that I should obey him? I do not know who he is. So one of the reasons why God is going through this systematic approach to the destruction of Egypt is so Pharaoh ends up eating those very words. I am the God that you have thumbed your nose at. I am the God of these slaves and whom you have contempt for. I am the God who is going to ruin your nation. The second reason was so that the name of the Lord will be proclaimed throughout all the earth. And we are doing that. And I hinted that there is a third reason as to why God is doing this. And we see it being revealed in the very first verses of the 8th plague. We know the locusts come. And those of you who are old enough to see swarms of locusts where they've come in and devoured whole fields know exactly the totality of the destruction they leave behind. The locusts will go through your field like Sherman through Atlanta. Sorry, those of you from the South. And it's just, if you don't know the reference, go study the Civil War. They leave nothing behind. They peel bark off trees. Eat anything that's green or can be edible, they just eat it behind. Now, remember, last plague was hail. And remember what the hail did. It killed any man that was left in the field. It killed any animal that was left in the field. It beat the two types of wheat, the barley and one more, that just beat down because of the hail. But other two wheat crops had yet to start germinating and growing. Well, those crops that are now growing are about ready to be decimated by locusts. And all of this, Pharaoh is learning that not only is his food sources rapidly dwindling, but they are going to be chewed up. This is worse than any type of famine you could bring upon a nation because this is self-inflicted. These are self-inflicted injuries. But there's a reason God is doing this, and we've already learned the first two, and now we're going to learn the third. And check this out. Let's go to chapter 10. Then the Lord said to Moses, go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his servants. Notice this phraseology. Not just Pharaoh's heart is hardened, but the heart of his servants. We're going to see his servants here in a bit do something that they've been trying to get Pharaoh's attention for a while. That I may show these signs of mine among them. Okay, we knew that one. And that you will tell in the hearing of your sons and your grandsons how I have dealt harshly with the Egyptians. One of the reasons that this plague and these plagues are coming about is not simply where God's like going, I'm going to have some fun. He's not like, Hannibal Lecter tormenting his prey. He has a purpose for what he is doing. One is so that the rulers of the world know that there is the one true God in heaven, and he is to be worshipped, and he has chosen Israel to be his children. Two, that his name is to be proclaimed. The very thing we're doing this morning. Three, to be taught to your children. The purpose of this is not simply to where people, wow, man, look at these awesome plagues that Pharaoh is getting punished with. It is so that the Israelite father can relay to his children and to their children and to their children, not simply God whooped Pharaoh. Matter of fact, that's the least of the things that should be mentioned, that God whooped Pharaoh. Remember a few sermon series back, there's some things that God does. One of them is God hears, God remembers, and God delivers. This is the phraseology used repeatedly throughout the book of Exodus as God is delivering the children of Israel. I have heard your cry. I have remembered my promise. And I will deliver. The purpose for the Israelite is to take this information and then begin to teach the children of Israel about the one true and righteous God. About a king who refused to bend the knee, and a king who refused to honor the Lord, and God systematically took him apart, but that the children of Israel would know that after 430 years of slavery and captivity, that the Lord heard their cry, remembered his promise, and delivered them out through these wondrous signs that cannot be explained away, whether you want to look at it scientifically today or natural cause. It is designed to be a teaching tool. This continues on. We will see when we get to the 10th plague that they are commanded to do the same thing. When your kids ask, why are we doing this? It is so you have the opportunity to teach them the things that God has done in Egypt and how he delivered you from the hands of Pharaoh. When they go into the wilderness and they wander, and then finally God allows them to enter into the land of Canaan, they take 12 stones, cross the river, make an altar, stack it up, and the command God gives them is, whenever you pass these stones, your children ask, what do these stones represent? You are to say, these stones are when the children of Israel crossed the Jordan River into the land in Canaan, how God had delivered them out of the hand of Pharaoh through many wondrous signs, and we are to love and worship the one true God because he is a God who delivers. And what happens is we forget this side. Remember, if you were born on the first half of that 400 years, you lived and died in slavery. If you were born midway through that 400 years, you lived and died in slavery. The only people that actually see the deliverance, even though it was promised all the way back in Genesis chapter 15, the only people that see the deliverance are those that Moses is talking to now. But that doesn't alter the fact that they serve a God who hears, who remembers, and who delivers. And he does so through these plagues in which he is utilizing them to get not just Pharaoh's attention, not just Egypt's attention, but Israel's attention. If you read the history of Israel, you will see where they forget about this God repeatedly. Soon after the Exodus, they go into what we call the Judges period. And then the cycle of forgetfulness comes on. Soon after God delivers us, we enter into this cycle of forgetfulness, and we forget the wondrous things that God has done for us. And then all of a sudden, something comes along, and we go, "Oh Lord, this is why am I going through all these problems? God must not care about me. God must not love me." We forget that we serve a God who hears, who remembers, and who delivers. And see, it's part of the process, parents, that to relate to your children the importance of who God is. If you were in a high church tradition, they would call this catechism. Catholics have it, Presbyterians have it, Methodists have it, Baptists have it as well. We have a Baptist catechism called the 1689 Baptist Confession of Faith and Catechism. We also do this as a convention. We have the Baptist Faith and Message. And the sole purpose of these are not to sit on our shelves and never be read. Or for us to toy with and go, there's some clever ideas in there. These are kind of cute. And never take it any further. The purpose of the reason why these things are written is so that parents, you have the obligation to teach your children. Sure, we hired Tyler to do a youth program. Sure. And I like Tyler. He's a good guy. He is mourning the loss of Tennessee. That was just ugly, brother. It was like watching an adult beat a child. I mean, so it was just... I had to stop watching it and pray for you. I'll just stop. I'll be here in tomorrow, so if you want to cry on my shoulder, yeah. But we hired Tyler to do a youth program. That's great. Tyler's sole job is not to train your children. He is part of the component in the training and education of your children. Guess who the primary role is? Parents. Just like when you send your kid off to school, and we have embraced this thing in our culture, it goes, it's the school's job to teach my kid. And they are things you don't want them to know. And you go, well, how does my kid end up with all this nonsense? Because you have abdicated your role as the parent and say, not my job. We pay somebody else to do that. Wrong. It is your job. You read this text over and over, all the way through the Old Testament, and the onus is put upon the parent for the purpose of training. It's a job. Well, I don't have kids. Doesn't excuse you. That's the meds, by the way. Anyhow. And you're still responsible for part of the training. Why? Because you're part of the body of Christ. Well, I just have grandkids. Great. He mentions grandkids. Well, I have great-grandkids. Great. You got, man, your list of tasks still keeps growing. The purpose of to why I am doing this, Moses, to Pharaoh is not so locusts come in and all they do is eat your green stuff. That is the prime reason for this plague, but so that you and your families teach the deliverance of the Lord and how He performed these unique and wondrous signs in a means in which He delivered Israel out of the hand of a despot. We have the opportunity to take everyday moments and turn them into teaching moments for us parents. This election cycle should be a great example of things in which you can take your kids and go, look, no. Just no. No. No, it's not okay. No, lying is never okay. Talking like that is never okay. Hiding things from the government is never okay. And you have the opportunity to take these things and turn them into teaching moments. The question then becomes are you? Am I? I have great plans, great teaching plans for my kids. And sometimes I actually execute them. And sometimes they're great plans. To teach them to your children, not so they simply just have this knowledge about who God is and that He delivered, but so that God is known to them and they are known by God. See, what happens is we get focused on salvation, and this flows greatly into discipleship. We get focused in on salvation. My kids are saved. They're good. Oh. Well, then we can just take this book and, let's see here, we'll just keep the Gospel of Mark. That's the smallest of them all. And we throw the rest of this dude in the trash, right? Because if it's salvation is the only thing that's important, then all we need is the book of Mark. To take these and train them so you can see how the Lord has dealt harshly with the Egyptians. Made sport of. This is no contest. One reason why we are to teach these to the children is so that you can demonstrate how the Lord has so taken apart a king who thought he was all that and the bag of chips with the t-shirt. And systematically took him apart. Or do we teach these as cute stories that really, if God's out there, He probably won't deliver you. Why do we have this? Why does He do this? Why is He doing this? It simply isn't just the plague. See, a lot of times we get our minds wrapped around the axle of what plagues, how the plague happened, how this happened. We know that an east wind brought these locusts in. We know that a west wind is going to blow them right into the Red Sea. Pow. We know between those two winds, they devour everything in their sight. They're like me at a Chinese buffet. I've been thrown out of a Chinese buffet before. Probably would help if I didn't eat as much. My foot wouldn't hurt as much. But that's another story, and neither here nor there. So one of the things that is to be brought out in this, and one of the reasons why we go through this, is not simply because they're cute stories, but they are to be training moments, teaching moments. One of the studies that have been done recently on kids entering seminary and Bible colleges is the such a dearth of biblical knowledge of kids coming in. Let me explain to you how seminaries work. Typically, when you go to a seminary, you have an undergraduate degree in something like engineering or art history or philosophy or whatever floated your boat while you were trying to find yourself through college and that you could pass the grades on. And then you go to a seminary, and a seminary has one or two programs. One is called the MDiv, which is Master of Divinity, which is basically where you go and you study your basics of Christian training. And then you have one called the THM, and it's a little bit more advanced. And a lot of expectation when they come to seminary is people think that, well, I've gone to seminary, therefore I know. Well, unfortunately, they're starting in their base level when they're going to seminary versus when guys before went to seminary is at a lower spot. We are generating a populace of future preachers that know very little about this text except for what they learn in seminary. How does that happen? Well, it happens to you, Pastor. You're not preaching enough. Okay. I'll own part of that. Tyler, he's not teaching enough. I'll let Tyler own that. Well, let's just say that was a fourth. There's still a half that's not accounted for. Correct? That is one of the reasons that God is doing this with Pharaoh. Let's take a look at what happens. Verse 3, so Moses and Aaron went into Pharaoh and said to him, thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me and let my people go that they may serve me? For if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your country. Drop down to verse 7 and see what happens. Then Pharaoh's servants said to him, that would be Pharaoh, how long how long shall this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve their God, the Lord their God. Do you not yet understand that Egypt is ruined? How long, Pharaoh, are you going to be obstinate? One of the purposes of what God is doing is for us to teach our kids, but the other purpose is for Pharaoh to know who God is. How long are you going to make this obstinate stand, Pharaoh, and continue to war with God as though you're winning? And Tyler has watched me debate a few people, and he has seen as folks are debating with me, and they think they're winning. And I know they're losing. And I begin to spin them in circles because my personality it lends itself towards a little bit more of the sardonic and sarcastic. And one time Tyler was like, please don't look at me. You're only going to make me laugh. How long, Pharaoh, are you going to continue on in your persistent understanding that you think you're winning? Your animals are dead. Your crops are dead. He's turned the river into blood. He sent you fleas, biting flies. He sent a plague where everybody ended up with boils upon them, and we could not stand. Double entendre, either due to the physical pain or because we could not stand against a holy God. And then when we saw the thing of the gnats, we said, hey, this is the finger of God. How long are you going to continue and play with a deity that's whooping you? He has destroyed Egypt. And you continue to play. Well, that's what he says. This man is a snare. Now, they're attributing the power to Moses because when Moses shows up, Moses is the one doing the cool stuff, he and Aaron. Moses is God's representative. And for polytheists to make this claim is fairly standard. Look, in a polytheistic world, if you go out to battle and you lose and the other people win, their God beat your God. Therefore, they beat your army. And so you adopt that God into your polytheistic world because, well, you don't want to make that God angry again. You lost. How long are you going to keep making this God angry? Why don't you bring him in to be on Team Pharaoh? And then he'll quit hurting you. And one of the things that you need to do so he'll be on Team Pharaoh is let them go. Have you ever dealt with people stuck in some type of addiction? Or in the early stages, they believe that they have their addiction under control. Oh, no. I'm not an addict. I'm not that way. I can hold down a job. I'm a totally functioning individual. No, you're an addict. No. And the imagery that they have of themselves is not the imagery of what they are. And you can get very frustrated with them when you look at them and you begin to talk to them because the imagery that they have themselves is this of, I've got it all under control. And you look at them and they've got the shakes and the quakes and they're trying to figure out when their next score, and they are just out of control, but they are in total control. You're like, no. How long will you persist in this until you hit rock bottom? And this is really the conversation that Pharaoh's men are having with Pharaoh. Do you not see that all of your actions had led to the absolute destruction of our very nation? The one thing that if you would just simply let it go, to quote Elsa, thank you for laughing at my poorly timed joke. If you would just simply let it go, God will stop hurting you. Because he wants you to let Israel go, and the more you try to control it, the more pain you are going to suffer. We do this in our own lives. You say, well, I know because you keep saying it. I know, and I'm going to keep saying it. The very thing that is at times destroying ourselves is the very thing that God wants us to let go, and yet we think that if we just placate God, we can get to keep it. It's like my dietary understandings of food when I was deployed. As long as it was on the salad bar, it was salad. I didn't care what it was. If it was cooked in vegetable oil, Vegetable. Because what's in the vegetable oil? What's it made from? Vegetables. Duh. If the food was in any other language other than English, calorie free. Because if it was important, they'd put it in English. Now, you can only eat like that for so long before you begin to bulge in places where your uniform won't expand anymore. And here is Pharaoh trying to justify keeping them, and yet is just stripping it away. Well, they're a workforce. Yeah, okay. You don't have much more left to do. He's pretty well destroyed all that you have. Yeah, but man, when he stopped whipping me, we're going to still have that workforce. How cute. Do you understand that Israel is ruined? So now, Pharaoh is going to negotiate. This is a very interesting negotiation because this occurs before the plague. Check this out. This is very unique. This occurs before the plague. Check this. So Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, and he said to them, you know what? Must have been coming in from the heat into the AC. Just kind of lost my head there for a minute. Go and serve the Lord your God. Yeah, you can go. But hold on a second. The cold air also gave me amnesia. I forget who's supposed to go with you. Go and serve the Lord, but which ones are you to go? And Moses says, we will go with our young and our old. We will go with our sons and our daughters, with our flocks and our herds, for we must hold a feast to the Lord. This is kind of like, I'm going to play bait and switch with you. And we've all had conversations with this, whether or not you're working with a mechanic, or you're working with somebody that's cutting your grass, or you're working with somebody that's building your house. Do you remember have you noticed that they can remember everything except for the price you negotiated? I'm just having a hard time. Do you remember the price we settled on? Yeah, $10. No, it wasn't $10. Then you do know the price we settled upon. Really don't have much of an answer after that. Do you remember who I said go? Yeah, everybody. Everybody's to go. Now, why is he only wanting the men to go? How far are men going to go and leave their family in captivity of any moral character? All that they have, all that they would possess. You and your men, they can go and they can worship in the desert. Go, but everything you own stays. Oh yeah, I'll make that deal all day long, not. I kind of like my family. I had my foot propped up yesterday. I wanted not for soda, drink, or TV remote. I got tons of hugs and kisses too. Not from Stephanie, but yeah. One man of any moral integrity is going to leave his kids in the hands of a despot and go and make a run for it. Pharaoh knows exactly what he's doing. This placation attempt, this negotiation attempt is simply nothing more than, well, you can go, but you're going to come right back because I'm holding the things you need necessary to build a new life. I'm holding the things that you hold most dear in your life. And so therefore you can go. But remember, the first time he said he could let him go, you can go, but only don't go too far. That should placate a holy God. Before the locust comes, let's see if we can't do a deal and make this happen. Let's see if we can't get you to sign on the bottom line. Moses said, I'm an understanding kind of guy. Maybe God can be an understanding kind of God too. And we'll make a deal and he'll be satisfied and he'll get his cut and I get my cut and I still get to keep the thing I want and God gets a pacifier and then he can go off. And what you see from these plagues, and what you should be teaching to your children, is that God is not a God that placates. He is not a God that can be bribed. He is not a God who you can give a wink and a promise and a head nod to and go, I got you Sunday morning, brother. Sunday morning I dedicate to you. All to you. All to Jesus I surrender. All to Him I freely give, unless it's football, TV, all the things my wife has on the list. I give those to you, Lord. Work a miracle in my life and demonstrate that you can do my honey-do list while I sit and watch TV. See, we go down that route and we think that God is going to be appeased by this. God is not tickled at this at all. God just says, okay, guess what? Locusts on the menu. Literally. So they come into town and they eat everything that the hail does not destroy. Egypt is ruined. Look down at verse 16. Then Pharaoh. This is the first time this terminology is used. Hastily called Aaron and Moses back. Or Moses and Aaron. My dyslexia was working well. Go get them. Go get them now. It's almost the same intensity as the first time the word plead came out. It wasn't, we read it and go, and then Pharaoh asked Moses to plead with him for the Lord. No, Pharaoh went to Moses and said, plead with your God for me. My nation is ruined. We always want God to help us when the plagues come. We are in a hurry for God to take action when the pain comes. Trust me. I've said, Lord, please let my foot quit hurting. It hurts badly. Maybe one day it'll stop. But we are slow to do the things He asks of us. Let my people go. Yeah, I'll let some of them go. Oh, now I'm in trouble? Please come back and talk to your God for me. Please, I'm in deep trouble. I've even heard this line. Well, I'm not a very religious person, but I know that you're well connected with God, so will you please pray for me? Oh, is that how it works? Well, since I'm so well connected, I'll take 20s. And they're up front. Regardless of the outcome, 20's up front. I don't do that. I've thought about doing that just to watch the people go, you're going to charge for that? You're going to ask God for that? Have you ever noticed how holy people get when they're hurting? And when everything is going well, not so much. With great haste, they send for Aaron and Moses. Come quickly. And check this out. I'm not getting down on my knee this week. If you're thinking I'm going to get on one knee and do this, your cheese has slid totally off your cracker. I have sinned. Let's see if I can I'll poke myself in the foot so I can get some tears. I have sinned against the Lord, your God, and against you. I'm a vile, vile thing. It's just so bad. I try so hard, and I just try to do the best I can. Will you therefore forgive my sin and please this once, just this once. We're on plague 8. There's going to be 2 more onces. Just this once, I promise. Will you ask God to take away the locusts? This is almost like the excuses that you hear when, and I've dealt with a lot of battered spouses, and you hear this kind of apology. Oh, baby, I'm so sorry. I just get so angry. And I just have a hard time controlling my anger, and I just get so mad, and I just don't mean to do what I do. Will you please forgive me and come back? No, don't forgive him and come back. Don't go back to that house at all. He's going to hit you again. No. This is the last time. I promise. I promise. I'll poke out my. I have heard how many times a guy's going to poke out his eyes. He has more. He does not have that many eyes. I promise. It's like the guy when he's cheating on his girlfriend. Oh, baby, I can't keep him from calling me. I got to work with him. I promise, baby. It's just forgive me this one time, and it'll never ever happen again. I bet you it will. I'm not a betting man, but I'd put 200 on red on that one all day long. Why? Because there's no apology here. There's no true apology here. How do we know this? And the Lord turned the wind into a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in the land or in the country of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. He didn't let Israel go. How do we know that Pharaoh is not sincere in his apology? Because he isn't doing what the Lord is commanding him. How do we know that Pharaoh is going to continue on in his rebellion? Because he doesn't do what the Lord commands him. How do you know, as parents, how to train up your children in the way they should go so when they are old they do not depart from it? By teaching them about these things that the Lord is doing here, not only with Pharaoh, but through the book of Judges, and into the book of 1st and 2nd Samuel, and into the book. I know they're dry sometimes. You get into those minor prophet dudes, and their names are hard to pronounce. I got it. You can come on Sunday night. I just look and call that guy, that dude, and somebody. I got it. Well, we know Jesus loves me, and that's great. I'm glad that you know that Jesus loves me. But do you have a relationship with Jesus Christ? Have you been taught how to have a relationship with Jesus Christ? Do you understand what it means to have a relationship with Jesus Christ? Or do you just simply know that Jesus loves you? And while that is an important first step, if that is all you know and where you are, then you will always be in a place of where you are spiritually retarded. That's a place where you're not growing. And then actually what you will do is begin to degrade. Pharaoh serves as an excellent warning for us. The very thing that if he would just simply give it up, and he was given the opportunity, 3 opportunities to simply go, you're right, I'm done, here it is, Israel can go, they can take everything they want and be gone. But at every opportunity he chooses to harden his heart. And now the Lord is hardening his heart. And the refrain is always, and he did not let Israel go. You have this constant refrain. It is our job to train these things to our children. It is our job to teach that in Pharaoh serves both hope and warning. Hope that the believer eventually is delivered by the hand of God, and warning in that the very thing that you possess in your life, which the Lord has begged you to give up and asked you to give up, He will take from you regardless if you choose to give it up or not. You pursue wealth over the Lord. Have you ever noticed that your wealth is never the wealth that you've looked for? You prize your spare time over the Lord. Have you ever noticed that the time that you think you're going to get, you never get? The things that you desire most are the things at times that He has asked you to give up, and instead of doing so and following after Him, you cling to the thing even though it destroys you. And you think you can placate Him. And the warning to this is that God does not placate. And God does not negotiate. You're here today. And you've been negotiating with a holy God. Lord, I'll give you this, but I'm keeping that. Lord, I'll do this, but I won't do that. Lord, I want to be a Christian, but I don't want to give up all the stuff I do. Folks, it is all in or nothing. You are either sold out and are a believer in Jesus Christ, chosen by Him, or you are not. There is no halfway. There is no partial way. There is only a total way. If that's you this morning, I'd like for you to come down and I'll have a conversation with you about the wonderful love of a loving Father who sent His Son into the world to transform the lives of rebels. You're here this morning and you've been coming for a while, or this may be your very first Sunday that you're here, and you say, I would like to join the fellowship of Skyline Baptist Church and like to know what that looks like. I'd love to have a conversation with that. As the praise band comes to sing, I'm going to hobble down and meet you here at the aisle.